Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Olivia. How are you doing today? And hope you're staying safe. So if you're new to this channel, can you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for always coming back. So in today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to draft a simple basic bodice pattern. All right, so this is actually the simplest basic bodice you will ever want to do. All right, it is as easy as it is. Okay, so let's get started. So guys, the first thing we're going to do is to mark our shoulder line, which is our starting line, our shoulder line. So I'll just mark my shoulder line. Hope you can see that. And so the next thing we're going to impute is our vertical measurements. So I guess you know how to take your measurements, your shoulder to bust, your half length measurements, your shoulder measurements, and your round armhole. So the first thing I want to impute now is my shoulder measurements. So to impute your shoulder measurements, we're going to divide your shoulder by 2. So my shoulder is 16 inches. I'm going to divide that by 2, and when I do so, I have 8 inches. And so guys, I'm going to add half inch for my sewing allowance. That is the allowance I'm going to use to join the sleeve to the top. Alright, so I'll just mark 8.5. okay, and then I'm just going to mark 3 inches for the neck width, because I really needed to mark my shoulder slant. Alright, so I'm going to mark 3 inches for the neck width, and then the 8 inches standard for shoulder slope. I'm still going to take note of my 8 inches. Alright, and then on my 8 inches, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. You guys, you know our shoulder is not straight, so you have to slant your pattern or your fabric so that it can fit into your shoulder. Alright, so I'm going to be connecting this 1 inch to my this 3 inches for the neck width. This 3 inches is standard for small to medium size. Though some small size persons, you can use 2.5 but the standard for medium size or normal sized people is 3 inches. And that's what I'm using for this tutorial. So guys, here's my shoulder slope, and then I'm going to impute my neck depth. So I'm using 3 inches by 3 inches for the front and 3 inches by 1 inch for the back. So I'm going to mark both the front and back here. I'm going to curve my neck. So I hope you can see my curve. So this is for my back, and this is for my front. Hope you can see that. So the next thing I want to do is to impute my vertical measurement, which is my shoulder to bust, my chest line, which is my armhole measurement, and then my half length. So my chest line, my armhole measurement is 7.5 inches. How do I get 7.5? You divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5, or you divide your bust measurement by 4 and subtract 1.5. Hope you got that. Divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5, or divide your bust measurement by 4 and subtract 1.5. So my bust measurement is 36 inches. When I minus 1.5, I have 7.5. And if I divide by 6 and add 1.5, I have 7.5 as well. Alright, so I'm just going to mark 7.5 here for my chest line, and then my shoulder to bust measurement is 9.5. My half length is 16 inches. Then I'm going to add half inch. The half inch I'm adding is to join my upper bodice to my down bodice. Alright, So that's what I just marked here. And I'm going to mark the same thing on this side. And then I'm going to connect my lines. So I'm done connecting my lines. The next thing we want to do is to work on our armhole area. Alright, we're going to work on our armhole area. So what do I do on my armhole area? I'm going to mark the same thing I have here. I'm going to mark it here, okay? So you remember I added ½ inch for joining allowance, so I'm going to add ½ inch as well. So I have 8.5 here, and then I'm going to connect the lines. Hope you can see that I've connected my lines. Hope you can see it. And then to get our armhole curve, we're going to get the midpoint from here to here. So our midpoint is we have 6.5 inches there, so the midpoint is going to give us 3.25. And then on that line, I'm going to go in by 0.75 inches. I'm going to go in by 0.75. And this is going to be for the front armhole. But for the back, I'm not going to go in. I'm just going to connect with a curve. But on this chest line, I'm going to mark my chest and my bust measurement because it's going to help me to get a good curve, alright? So my bust measurement divided by 4 is 9 inches. So 36 divided by 4 is 9 inches. That's what I'm going to mark here. And then I'm going to connect with my curve. And then from here to this point, I'm going to connect with a straight line. Hope you can see that. So this is going to be our front curve, alright? And then for the back, we're just going to connect from here. So this is going to be our back curve, okay? So the next thing we want to input is our horizontal measurement, which is our circumference measurement. So we're going to input our bust measurement divided by 4, which is 9 inches. We already have it here. And then we are going to add our sewing allowance, seam allowance of 1.5 inches. And then on our waistline, we're going to input our waist measurement divided by 4. My waist measurement is 32 inches. When I divide it by 4, I have 8 inches. So that's what I'm going to mark here, 8 inches. And then I'm going to add my sewing allowance of 1.5 inches. And then again, I'm going to add 1 inch for that because we're going to be making that for this bodice. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch for that allowance, and it's going to be on this waistline. So I'm going to add extra 1 inch for that allowance. So hope you can see we have it here. Now we're going to connect our lines. So hope you can see my bodice. So the next thing we want to do is to input our darts, alright? So to get our darts, we're going to measure our bust span. So my bust span is 7 inches. That is the distance between one nipple to another. That is your bust span. So my bust span is 7 inches. And then I'm going to divide that by 2, which is 3.5. And I'm going to add ½ inch to it. So what I will do here is to add, I'm going to mark that on the waist line and on the bust point line, okay? So when I add half inch, I have 4 inches here. I'm going to mark the same 4 inches on this bust line. And then I'm going to connect them with my ruler. Hope you can see that. And then I'm going to come down from my bust point. I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And then on the waistline, I'm going to be taking half inch on both sides. Alright? So I have half inch on both sides. And then I'm going to be connecting this to this point and this to this. So I hope you can see that. So this is going to be our dart, alright? And then I'm going to extend this line. Remember, this is my allowance for joining the upper bodice and the down bodice, so the lower bodice. So I'm going to just connect this line. Alright, so this is our front and back bodies, but there's going to be an alteration to the back, but we're going to cut this out first and then do the other alterations to the back. Alright, and please, before we cut, we're going to be adding half inch joining allowance to our shoulder. We're going to be adding half inch joining allowance to the shoulder to join our front and back shoulder. Alright, so I'm just going to come here and mark my half inch. Connect the straight line. And that is it. Just extend this line. Extend this line. And that is that. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue cutting. And remember to always have a scissors for your pattern. Don't make a mistake of using your fabric scissors to cut your pattern. You're going to blunt your scissors, right? So just make sure you have a particular scissors to use for your paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut. So remember, I'm going to cut the back first. So I'm going to cut the back first before we now go ahead to cut the front. And then on the neckline, remember to cut your back first. So this is it. And then I'm going to divide this paper into two so I can use one part for the front and one part for the back. Alright? And before I separate them, I'm going to take note of the chest line by making a dot. So we have our chest line, and then I'm going to separate. Now the next thing I want to do is to connect. I already know that this is my chest line, so I'm just going to connect. So for the back darts, you're going to just come down by 1 inch. 1 inch from the chest line, just come down by 1 inch, and that is where you're going to stop for your dart. And remember our 4 inches bust span. Bust span plus half inch. We're just going to mark it, which is 4 inches. The same thing here, 4 inches. Connect to the straight line. And then you're going to take out half inch on both sides. Half inch on both sides, just like we did for the front. And remember, I said you're going to come down by 1 inch from the chest line. For the front, you're coming down by 1 inch from the bust line. while for the back you're coming down by 1 inch from the chest line. Okay, don't forget that. And then I'm going to connect my darts. So this is our dart for the back and our dart for the front. So there's another thing you need to take note of. You know, our front and back half length is not usually the same. So the front half length is kind of longer than that of the back. So if you actually measure your front and your back half length, you're going to find out that the back is always shorter than the front. So for beginners, I advise you just come up here by 1 inch or 0.75 inches if you're not sure of the back length, though you're not going to use the back half length for this kind of pattern, basic bodice pattern. I'm going to make another video where we're going to be making use of the back half length measurement and the front half length, and then that is when we're going to be having our under bust tightening. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, this is the time to do so, because I'm going to be making a video very soon for under bust tightening. All right, so for this tutorial you're just going to come here, come up by 0.75, and sometimes it also depends on the bust of the person you're making, the size of the person. So if the person is a plus size, you should go up as far as 1 inch or 1.25, but I'm just going to use 0.75 for this tutorial. Is actually for a medium sized person. Alright, so I'm just going to be connecting this my 0.75 to my hemline here. Hope you can see that, and then I'm just going to cut it out. So I don't know if you've seen some peplum tops whereby the back is kind of sagging while the front is up, the back is down while the front is up, the half length. So this is actually because whereby you don't use your back half length and your front half length. But I'm going to be explaining all that in another tutorial. Maybe next week I'm going to make a tutorial on that. All right, so when you just get rid of this, it helps to reduce the back length and give you a perfect fitting. All right, and don't forget to add your zip allowance if you are going to be adding a zip to your dress. Don't forget to add your 1 inch zip allowance when you're cutting this on your fabric. All right, and then remember, I haven't finished my front, so I'm just going to go ahead to cut out my front neck and my front armhole. So here we are. So you might be wondering why I used 0.75 on the front armhole and nothing on the back armhole. That is because our back is wider than our front. So if you actually take note of that measurement, you find out that on that back area of your arm, it's kind of wider than that of the front. And then you don't need any bulges around the sleeve area of your front blouse. Okay, so to eliminate those bulges, that is why we have this curve, because the front armhole is always deeper than the back. Take your measurements, you're going to confirm that. All right, so this is all for today's tutorial. I hope to see you again in my next tutorial. Give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and share this video with your friends and family. Thank you so much for coming to my channel today. See you in my next one. Bye.